Alright, it's time to get into everything that happened last week, and there was a lot of it. We're gonna talk about Microsoft and the moves that were made surrounding Xbox Live, Xbox Gold, all of those details. There's some things that we did not think about when that news was released and that news was rescinded that I'm gonna get into, and I'm very excited to talk about it. We're gonna be discussing the rumors swirling about a certain Star Wars game in the works. I'm gonna be diving into the Resident Evil 8 showcase, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, what you need to know, and what we wish had been there. And I had the opportunity to talk to a very talented indie developer about his game, Ad Wars, that just hit early access last week. There's a whole bunch in store, so let's get into the 5 things that you need to know that happened in the gaming world last week. Last week in the gaming world, Microsoft made waves across all kinds of news outlets. And why did they do that? Because last week they announced that they were going to be raising the price on Xbox Gold subscriptions. They were going to almost be doubling it, which was a huge deal for all the Xbox faithful out there. So much so that tons of people came out and they were very outraged about this, and it just was all over Twitter and social media. So much so that Microsoft came out very quickly afterwards and said, you know what? We're not going to be raising the price. We're actually going to be keeping the price the same, and not just that. We are going to make all of these free-to-play games that are available for only Xbox Gold members available for everybody. Available for everyone who has Xbox Live. And while they didn't have a specific time that this would be available, they said soon, we would assume that this would come sometime in the spring of this year. This is a big 180. This is something that nobody expected to be happening. Microsoft changed bad news into good news, and this is where an old business saying comes into effect. Any news is good news, and timing is everything. And Microsoft employed this perfectly last week. And you're thinking, why does this have anything to do with Microsoft? What do these sayings have to do with them? Well, I'm going to tell you, because PlayStation last week was the host of the Resident Evil 8 showcase, and not just that. Actually, PlayStation is the only platform to get the Resident Evil 8 demo. PlayStation 5's demo for Resident Evil 8 released simultaneously alongside the showcase. Therefore, they had everything going their way last week, and PlayStation would be dominating the news for the rest of the weekend, which was not good news for Microsoft. So how do you combat this? If you are Microsoft, you release a statement that is very bad for a lot of gamers, and they get completely outraged, and then you turn the tides. You change the bad news into good news. You say, no, we're not going to double the price. We're going to keep it the same. And you know what? We're going to open our arms with one of the best game libraries in all of gaming. We're going to let everybody get a piece of that pie. This is big news. This is a genius idea, and this is Microsoft just being Microsoft. They're great at business. They're great at strategy, and it's a chess move because they completely checkmated PlayStation, because this news is everywhere. This news dominated the entire weekend, whereas Resident Evil 8's showcase should have done that. But it didn't. It got completely dwarfed by this news. It got completely almost forgotten by this news. And we're going to get into the showcase, and we're going to get into the ups, the downs, and everything in between, which I am excited to talk about. But let's just take a second and bask in the just business savviness of Microsoft. And that is number 5. Now, I love a good rumor, and rumors were swirling last week about a certain Star Wars game. And when Star Wars rumors circulate, I listen because I love me some Star Wars. Knights of the Old Republic was a game that released way back in 2003. It's been a while, and it was made by EA and BioWare. Now, this game was an open-world RPG. It had a lot of great story elements to it, and it had a massive fan base behind it. And over the years, there's been a lot of different rumors back and forth about TV adaptations or movie adaptations, game remakes of it, but none of them have ever quite come to fruition. That could finally change. 2 very reliable insider sources last week said that this was a game that was in development at Lucasfilm Games. They didn't know who was developing it specifically, but they did say that the game was being developed. Now, the first of these was the Bespin Bulletin, who said it via a podcast in the middle of last week. Furthermore, he even went on to say that a game about a bounty hunter within the Star Wars universe was also in development, which rings very eerily similar to Star Wars 1313, a project that got shut down when Disney bought the rights to Star Wars. The other one came from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who also echoed the Bespin Bulletin's comments saying that KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, was in fact in development, and he even added, "We'll never guess who's developing it." And, well, you never know. We might guess. We don't have any other news on this, so it's really hard to kind of hedge a guess on who would be developing it, but maybe this is like a very outside developer that we had never imagined would do it. Maybe a CD Projekt Red. Their time has come to jump into the Star Wars world. We don't know. There's no other news to concrete back this up. It's just rumors. Take it with a grain of salt. But let's really let our imaginations run wild. Let's think about the possibilities, and let's explore what a Knights of the Old Republic game could look like in the new age of Lucasfilm games. That is number 4. Alright, so last week, the Resident Evil 8 showcase debuted on Thursday, and it covered kind of the basics that we would have anticipated for the event to cover. It was very brief, it was only about 15 to 20 minutes, however, it did cover release date, when you can pre-order the game, it briefly went into gameplay mechanics, some really simple story elements, it talked about when the demo was available, and outside of that, we really didn't get too much more except some other projects that are going on around the Resident Evil franchise. Now, the game is going to be releasing on May 7th of this year, and it's going to be releasing to all platforms. More than that, if you want to pre-order the game, you can pre-order it now because that went live during the event last Thursday. The demo also went live during the event last Thursday. However, if you are anything other than a PlayStation 5 player, you are not going to be able to play it. It is live for them right now, and if you're an Xbox player and you're like, well, I want to play this demo, when can I get my hands on it? Well, you can't. But another demo is coming, and that one's going to be arriving in the spring. We don't have an exact date, however, another demo is going to be arriving for all players across all platforms at that point. So you will be able to enjoy some form of a demo for the game. Outside of that, they briefly touched on the combat style within the game. They said that you're going to be integrating blocking into this title, which is something brand new for Resident Evil, and it's going to be something very crucial as you progress throughout the game. Outside of that, the story is going to be a fully first-person one across from beginning to end, and you're going to play as Ethan Winters, starting in the village, making your way to the castle where you are going to try to rescue your kidnapped daughter. Outside of that, there wasn't really too much that they got to cover. They briefly showed the blocking mechanic, they briefly showed some different clips from the story itself, kind of showcasing the art style and the graphic style of the game. It was a very interesting showcase, to say the least. However, as I said, it only really brushed the surface of the game itself. Now, other things that were announced around it, they announced that Division 2 DLC would have a crossover with Resident Evil, where you would be able to get some Resident Evil gear within the game. And there was also an announcement for Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, which is a Netflix movie which will be releasing sometime in 2021. The story focuses on Claire and Leon taking place shortly after Resident Evil 4. Finally, we got a reveal for Resident Evil Reverse, which is going to be a multiplayer mode where 4 to 6 players play a deathmatch lasting 5 minutes, where you'll be able to play as all kinds of different classic players throughout the Resident Evil world. Now, whoever has the most points at the end of this wins the game, and there really wasn't too much else revealed about this. We don't know if it's team-based, we don't know if it's single-player-based, we don't know if there'll be more modes released. We really don't know too much about it, and that is unfortunate at this point. However, I'm sure more information will be revealed along the way. Was the showcase satisfying? I would give it a solid C as a grade. It covered all the bases, it did what it had to do, but it really left a lot off the table, and there was really a lot of things that I wish that Resident Evil and Capcom would have explored. There was a lot of really cool things that they could have touched on, whether it's from gameplay mechanics to different story elements to different multiplayer elements, such as Reverse, where we really only got some really basic announcements. We really didn't get any details, and it is unfortunate because the game is releasing very soon. However, we can only hope that more will be on the way. So with that is number 3. Now we head to the indie devs. This week I was very excited because I got to talk to a certain indie developer, aGlitch, and his game Ad Wars, which just hit early access last week. I'm going to have the website below. I'm going to have a bunch of information below. Definitely check that out because it is worthwhile. But for now, let's dive into the interview, shall we?
Well, when I first started creating the game, I just wanted to make a small game about fighting ads. It takes place after a major event called the Apocalypse, where ad companies merge into a bigger one that started controlling people's lives. And the main character, which name is Paul, is the sole survivor of the apocalypse. His mission is to destroy Earth once and for all, and for that, he needs to go inside the internet and destroy them. I wanted to create something where players would get immersed, and everything and every single element or adventure could happen in that universe.
And can players, I mean, because it is multi-genre, can players kind of lean, since it's open world, towards one genre or another, or do you really have to just embrace everything as you play through the story? I mean,
well, at first, when the game starts, you have one clear adventure: get into the internet. The game starts as a bullet hell, but after you clear that intro episode of the game, it quickly opens up into several different episodes. They are called Super Premium Lands, which is a platformer, Clickbait Kingdom, which is an RPG, and Download Highways, which is a mix between maze scrolling and top-down shooter. The players have then free range of choosing their own adventure. I will love for the game to be fully done by the end of 2023. After that, I have lots of things written for it, lots of side quests, DLCs, and other releases, not just this game, that are set up in the same universe. And I want to listen to players, to their experience with the game, because I will try for them to have a completely different experience, unique to their own choosings or their own path with the game. The game doesn't have a main menu. The main menu of the game is playable. It's right inside on the ship. You start and you're already playing. No menus, no everything. Right there, you buy items that you can use in your different types of gameplay. You can walk to different parts of the ship that act as menus. Also, as you make progress on your adventure, more characters will keep popping on the ship and reacting to your adventure. I think one of the main aspects of the game are options. I always try to bridge difficulty with options. Not make the game easier, but give more options to players. Well, I'm planning to do, at first, just one difficulty. Just because the main focus on the game is adventure, exploring. I want to reward players with that focus on exploration. I'm already working on more things to add in the game. I'm also working on patching things up or fixing things. So if anyone wants to follow the game closely, you can follow AdWords Game on Twitter. And yeah, I'll be posting more frequent updates there.
I really can't wait for AdWars to release. It is a very unique and intriguing title with a lot of great elements to it. I really enjoyed the interview, and if you want to check out the entire thing, I am going to have it releasing on my YouTube channel actually later this week, probably Thursday or Friday. The link to that channel is below, so go there and subscribe and wait for the imminent release. It is very exciting, but as I said, check him out on Twitter, check out his website, show him all the support in the world because he deserves it, and that is number 2. Number 1 takes us to games that got released last week, and there was a bunch actually. One very big one and a couple other smaller titles, but they're all very unique and special in their own way, and I'm going to have every single link below for you to check out. I would advise especially one of them because it has a great deal going on Steam right now. Just really worth checking out. So the first title we're going to get into is Terratopia. Now Terratopia released on January 20th last week. It's an indie adventure / 3D brawler. It's a very colorful game, very eye-catching, very unique looking, something that you would really be drawn into as you play it. It was made by East Asia Soft. It's releasing to all platforms, and as I said, definitely worth checking out. Now, the next title is probably the biggest one on this list. It's Hitman 3. It released on January 20th as well. It's made by IO Interactive, for those of you who don't know, and it is a stealth shooter. Now, this is very exciting for me particularly because after Hitman 3's release, IO Interactive revealed they're going to be full-scale gearing up their production for their upcoming James Bond title, which I have been very excited about. Now, Hitman 3, it released with some very positive reviews. Some even said it was way better than Hitman 2. It is a very exciting title that has had a lot of build-up. And once you get done with that, hopefully the James Bond game will be close behind it with a release. Now the next title is Dyson Sphere Program. It released on January 21st and it only released for PC. Now it's made by YouthCat Studios and it's a strategy simulator. It's a very interesting looking game and as I said, definitely worth checking out. Then we go to Xing with an exclamation point. So you know it's good. It's gotta be good when you got an exclamation point. It also released on January 21st. It's a action side-scrolling title. It released actually in August of last year to PlayStation and PC. However, it's releasing to Xbox and Switch as of last week. The game is actually 75% off on Steam right now. And it is a really cool looking title. So if you're kind of having reservations about buying it for Switch or Xbox, you can check it out on Steam. The demo is actually free, so if you don't even want to do the discounted copy of it, you can get the demo and you can just try that out. It looks really cool. It's made by Mass Creation, and as I said, definitely worth checking out. Great deal on Steam. Now, that's all we have. That's all the releases. That is this week's Weekly Rewind. I had a blast talking about everything. There's a lot of great stuff on the way next week. I'm very excited about it. If you missed last week's Weekly Rewind, I'm going to have the link for that below as well. I dove into a bunch of really great stuff on Lucasfilms, and there was just a lot of cool news things that happened that really were worth touching on. Until next week, though, I am Nick Lehner, and I will see y'all later. Take it easy.